Beauty and Brains presents A Work in Progress, your favorite weekly podcast all about navigating adulthood and adversity with transparency and vulnerability. Here, we highlight progress over perfection. You're listening to my personal and professional development diary, where I share the highs and lows and the real and raw parts of the story that no one talks about. I'm your host, Brelynn Hunt, A Work in Progress. Dear friend, I hope all is well with you and that you are as healthy in body as you are sound in mind and strong in spirit. Welcome back to the podcast, you guys. I feel like I'm so nervous again. I'm so irritated. Like, I took so long off. This feels like my first podcast again. I'm literally sweating. I feel like I'm on a first date. Like, I just feel so nervous right now, but I'm so excited to be back. Anyway, I have a script. I'm going to stick to my script because I do not want this podcast to be so long. I know we have to talk. I know we have to catch up. As you guys can tell by the title of this video, today we're going to be talking about burnout. So I don't even know how long it's been. It's been some months since I've posted on YouTube, and specifically since I've created a podcast episode. In general, I just have not been consistent on any of my social sites for all of 2021, and that's just so crazy to think about. And there's a lot of reasons for that, so I give myself some grace, but one of the reasons is burnout, so we're going to talk about it today. This is normally the time where I do a brain freeze. No, I never follow my own flow of my podcast, but I feel like we have a lot to talk about today. So in the place of brain freeze, I'm going to tell you kind of what's been going on with me. So, what can I even share? Life has just been, it's been crazy, but like also really boring at the same time. Like, I think that I was feeling really like burnt out and overwhelmed, mainly just in my personal life, in specifics like with my journey in medical school, and again we're going to talk about that later. I think that all of life's pressures were weighing really heavy on me, and it had been a while since I really grounded myself, and so I kind of went through a sad spiral, and I was feeling really hopeless, and then I kind of woke up. I did like a whole like prayer and fast, and I just came to my senses. I surrounded myself around good people. Some certain situations have changed, and now I feel like I'm in a whole new season, and although a lot of circumstances haven't changed, my perspective has changed, and I just have a lot of peace. So that's just where I've been. I've kind of just went through a whole cycle where everything doesn't need to be televised. Like, I know the revolution will be televised, yes, but this one, it didn't need to be televised. I just needed some time, and I actually filmed a podcast. That was the only time I've ever filmed 2 podcasts in one day after my last podcast. So I filmed one, and it was called, I didn't figure out the title for the podcast, but I basically did this thing where I talked about how I'm currently feeling, and it was just all types of currentlies, between like what I'm currently listening to, what I'm currently watching, what I'm currently loving, where I'm currently dreaming of visiting, how I'm currently feeling. And I went like really deep, and I was talking there about how I would possibly take like a first season, like mid-season break type thing, and but I wasn't quite sure if that's what I wanted to do, because I really feel like I started this podcast, but I know I started prematurely. I know I had all of these goals and these wants for coming back to social media after being gone for so long, because part of that wasn't by choice, it was by force. And then once I had the choice, I was like, I'm forcing it. I was like, I'm actually still burnt out, and I can't force myself to create content, especially on a higher level. I figured it all out. I'm going to do this on TikTok, this on Reels, this on Instagram, this on YouTube, podcast, and this content video. And I was just like, I'd had no motivation. And y'all know I'm a very disciplined person, and I'm overall like really passionate about social media, and I just lost my fire. I lost my flame, and I just overall just wasn't feeling it. The timing to film these podcasts and the amount of time that it takes, like, it's a lot more than I thought it was going to be. So I just had to really kind of like regroup and decide, like, was this the right decision? Is this what I really want to do? And as you can tell, because I'm here today filming the podcast, that we are going to stick with the podcast. The other videos on my channel, that might look a little different than I thought it would, but and then TikTok, that's just gonna come out as it comes, and Instagram is just gonna be what it be. But right now I am gonna focus on my I am gonna focus on my YouTube family through the podcast specifically, because I genuinely miss you guys. And I'm not just saying that in like a, oh my god, I miss my followers. Like I ran into quite a few of you all during this time that I've been like MIA, and whether you guys are like in my DMs or like literally in person, you're like, yo, I need you to be back. Like there's no one quite like you. Like it's missing this void, and I feel the same way. Like I think that I enjoy creating content for a lot of different reasons, but what I need right now more than anything is a community of people who are hopeful, who are loving, who are full of joy. And I think that's something that I'm so proud that I've been able to build. And it was really trash of me just to kind of like neglect you guys over the past couple of months. And it wasn't me neglecting you guys on purpose, it was just life was happening and I couldn't keep up with everything at the same time. But I'm hoping that now I can at least be consistent with this, because I really want to continue to have this relationship with you guys, because I think that it's special and I cherish it. And when you cherish things, you water them and you watch them flourish. So enough being sappy. I didn't expect to say that today, but let's go ahead and talk about burnout, right? So I did a lot of research on this because I think it's really important for me to get to the bottom of this whole burnout thing, because I find myself getting burnt out somewhat often. And it was really interesting because I get burnt out in different areas of life as well. Like sometimes it's like with work, sometimes it's with YouTube, sometimes like this time it wasn't just with content creation, it was like life in general just kind of burnt me out. And so I was really looking up what exactly burnout is in order for me to figure out like what I can do to combat it. Because when I think about burnout personally for me, I think about how they always say that physicians like deal with burnout, and that like that's a really big red flag. Because if I'm already like, if I'm not a physician yet and I'm dealing with burnout, then this is something that I'm going to always be struggling with. So I need to master it now. And I think that's something that is really the core of the podcast, A Work in Progress. It's like, what am I supposed to be learning on this journey in order for me to be the person that I am becoming? Like I'm so goal oriented, I'm so focused on the end, whatever that end is. You know, the bar is always moving, the end goal is always being pushed back. But when I feel like I have a sight of the end and I'm working towards that, where was I going with this? Anyway, I just completely lost my train of thought. Hope that doesn't happen too much today, but again, we're not trying to let this be a 5-hour long podcast. So let's talk about the 3 components of burnout, right? Exhaustion, cynicism, and inefficacy. So first of all, where does burnout stem from? Burnout is a response to prolonged stress and a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. Y'all, check and check for me, okay? Like recently with my job, it had been a minute since I had been working full-time. I only worked full-time as a medical assistant. If you guys don't know, I'm a gynecological medical assistant. And I started in August and I went down to part-time in like October, November. So I had a few months, but it was still, you know, learning, things were new. As I came back and then ended up going full-time again, like it's been a lot. And that job is very stressful. It's stressful in so many reasons, like personal wise, time wise. Like that job stresses me out, and it's a big reason why I was burnt out. Because, and it's also a big reason why I feel like I never have time to do anything, whether it be like pageantry things or social media things or YouTube or podcasts. Because I tell you guys all the time, like I have to be there 7:30 in the morning and I leave 6:30 at night. I have 3 hours to myself, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but just putting things in perspective, I have 3 hours to myself, maybe 4 if I get my lunch break that day, which is not always guaranteed. 3 hours to myself every day to do what I want to do. It's very hard to do anything but want to like eat, shower, and sleep. So doing that every day after day after day after day after day, it's like this, I cannot do this forever. like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta move on. I gotta do something else with my life, because this is also like not the end goal, right? Like, there's somewhere else that I'm trying to go. So while I'm working these long hours very tirelessly, it doesn't really, like, when I got the job, it was like, yay, I got a job in the middle of a pandemic right after graduate school, like, woohoo. And it's so sad. I was telling my work bestie as I was complaining about work, like, it's so sad. I prayed for this. Like, I prayed for this job, so I know that there's something I'm supposed to learn, but like, it feels like that job is working against me. Like, it brings me to tears. It frustrates me, it stresses me out, and it doesn't feel like an accomplishment, because it's not like, I don't always compare myself to other people, but sometimes, every now and then. And I think it's just getting to this point in time in my life where I'm like, yo, I'm 25, I'm a master of physiology, and I'm working a job, not making a lot of money, and I'm being treated like the bottom of the barrel. And even though this is what I wanted this job to be like for hands-on experience in the medical field, specifically in women's health, to learn from these Black successful women, but I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it with all of this crap that I have to deal with in addition to this, which is like, again, being treated like the bottom of the barrel, being yelled at, long hour. And it's not like I don't mind long hours, but it's in comparison to, this is not long hour. It doesn't feel like me working all day every day now is helping me very much towards what my end goal is. It feels like it's more so getting in the way. Like, it was very hard to like work on my application, work on my personal statement, work on my secondaries when I was so tired after work. It felt like I really wasn't getting anything out of the job, because at this point, like, I've been working there for over a year. Before that, I was a scribe for a few months. Before that, I also had a job in the health field. So I think that I've kind of checked that box of experience, especially paid experience. So it gets very hard for me to not compare myself to my peers, where even if they're not in medical school, in law school, in pharmacy school, like either in higher education or like where they want to be, like some people my age are like graduating from law school. And I'm like, I'm still trying to get into school. And even if they're not like trying to do something like that, even if they're in corporate, it's like they're able to like live their adult life. They're able to just do things. And I felt like I feel so stuck. Like, I'm so stressed out, and I barely have any time with where I am. And because of my situation, I barely have any time to make the moves that I need to get out of my situation, which makes me feel even more stuck. And that's kind of the synopsis of why I was so stressed for the past couple of months. And like, again, with a reduced sense of personal accomplishment, it kind of felt like, it was great to have a job when I first got out. I had to do a whole episode of life after college, because going to grad school definitely was a good buffer for me to feel like I was doing something with my life, when it was really, I wouldn't call it a full waste of time. I learned a lot of things for sure, but it was a waste of like 2 years, sort of, kind of. But it made me feel like I had some type of personal accomplishment. But now, living at home with my mom, making butt squat nothing, working my butt off as a medical assistant, where it's like my peers are literally in medical school or daggone doctors by now, it really makes it feel like what I'm doing is like not enough. And even if it's not in comparison to them, I have problems with comparing myself to who I think I should be or where I think I should be. And that's where this burnout has stemmed from, because I just have all of these things just burning on a back stove there. And it started to feel like, what's the point? Like, why am I working so hard when I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel and I'm not getting anywhere? And when worthlessness is connected to your value and your work and overall your self-esteem, that's when you're going to experience burnout. So we've talked enough about me, right? Med school, my application, lack of success in my life. Let's talk about what burnout looks like just in general for other people, if you can't relate to my personal experience, which is fine. Feeling tired and drained most of the time. That's me. And I wasn't sure. I'm like, is it because, again, I work these long hours and then afterwards I'm trying to stay up to work on my application or edit a video or, edit a TikTok or trying to do something other than, and it's like I'm so tired. I'm trying to try new caffeines, energy drinks, coffee. I just feel like I'm always so tired. And on the weekends, you can forget it. I'm not doing anything but trying to sleep. It doesn't matter how much I sleep. On Monday, I'm still tired, drained, burnt out. Lowered immunity, frequent illnesses. This is something that I personally haven't experienced, but I definitely notice where like sometimes if I feel like super overwhelmed, like my chest starts getting a little bit tighter, and I feel like I definitely can tell when my health is going downwards, like we're starting to decline. But especially in the season of COVID, I don't play no games. Okay, I'm like, all right, let me take some vitamin C, let me get some sleep. Like, I mean, even just for me, like I have this horrible eye twitch because I'm so stressed out that I have this horrible eye twitch, and it comes and goes. It comes for a long time, but when it goes, I know, okay, I'm getting sleep, I'm not drinking as much caffeine, I'm probably actually taking care of myself, my body. I try and keep it that way. But I notice that again, sometimes I get like that. Even if it's not an illness, it's definitely my body trying to tell me like, yo, you're tired, you're burnt out. Frequent headaches or muscle pains. I literally have this thing where I have to wear blue light glasses, usually like on Thursdays and Fridays at work, because the stress of the week will kind of like build up, and on Thursday and Friday I'll have like this horrible headache right here, especially because I'm like looking at a screen all day, and I've just chalked it up to I'm looking at a screen all day, but I know that it's the accumulated stress of the week. By the time it gets to Thursday and Friday, I'm so ready to clock out that literally my head is like throbbing. Change in appetite or sleep habits, both very true. I mean, I'll either be like, I want to eat the whole fridge or I cannot sleep at all, and that really bugs me because I'm like, yo, I'm so tired, and I'll lay down and I can't sleep, or I'll fall right asleep and I'll wake up a few hours and then I can't go back to sleep, and that just drives me crazy because it's really hard to have a good day when you've overslept, or you wake up on time but you didn't get any sleep, so the whole day you just feel crappy because you're like, I just can't wait to get back into my bed. And then if that continues on for multiple nights in a row, like and then there's also emotional signs, again, that sense of failure, self-doubt, which I deal with a lot because of this season that I'm in, feeling helpless, which I mentioned, feeling trapped, which I mentioned, feeling defeated, loss of motivation. I mainly felt this when it came to my social media stuff, where I was just like, even though I know that I only can film this podcast this one day because I really don't have time any other day, I don't really feel like it. Like, that's how I would be. And girl, you know, like, you don't have any other chance, you don't have any other time, you don't have any other option. But I had no motivation just to do anything, even respond to emails. Like, the motivation was just gone. Increasingly cynical and negative outlook. This is something that I also struggle with, which is really hard because I think that you guys know me to be a pretty positive person, and I've said this before, but I'm super positive because I am overcompensating for my innately negative mindset. Like, I'm innately going to be like, or but I'm trying to be so careful about the words that come out of my mouth, the things that I speak to life. And sometimes I allow myself to, sometimes I don't hold myself to that same standard, and if I'm not like purposefully combating it, then my mind goes deep and dark and it's not pretty. Detachment, feeling alone in the world. Again, that's another reason why I was like, I have to get my community back, because I was starting to feel like nobody understands, like nobody else is in this part of their life, nobody else is experiencing life like this right now. Like, this doesn't look like who else, this sucks. Like, I don't see anybody else whose life just sucks like this right now. Like, everybody else is having a great time, accomplishing great things, just living off their 20s, and I just feel like this part of my life is literally just like on hold, pause, big L. And that just brings me to my last one, which is decreased satisfaction and sense of accomplishment, which we've touched on multiple times. So those are all of the things that burnout looks like. So if you were thinking to yourself like, I don't really know if I've ever been burnt out before, if you checked a few of those boxes, then welcome to the club. But it's okay, we're going to talk about it, right? So actions of a burnt out person: withdrawing from responsibilities. And I think that I do this in a bad way, but I think okay, first things first, like I said, my social media was like the first thing to go, where I was just like, I'm just not gonna post this week. I'm just not gonna film that video. I'm just not gonna. Sometimes it was motivation. Sometimes it was being so tired. It was a variety of different things that built up to where it was just like, it wasn't getting done. It wasn't happening. And unfortunately, like, my social media was the first thing on the chopping block. But there were other things as well, several other things that just, I saw myself just like withdrawing, just being like, I'm not gonna give them a call back. I'm not gonna answer that phone call. I'm not even gonna text you back. Like, ooh, the next one, isolating yourself from others. I definitely have been isolating myself because, I mean, just for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes I don't even know why. Sometimes I'm just like, I just want to be alone. Like, nobody gets it. Just leave me alone. But like, isolating yourself doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help your friends. It doesn't help your family. But I definitely noticed that I was like isolating myself in this past season. Procrastinating, like I said, like, whether it just be I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it even though it's my responsibility, or okay, I'll do it, but like, can I do it tomorrow? Can I do it in a couple of days? Can I do it next week? Like, and I would just keep doing it until I'm like, you know what, it's just too late now. It don't matter. Taking my frustration out on others. My poor mother. I just want to get out her house so I can stop stressing her out with my daggone mood swings. Like, I feel so bad for that woman, because if I am stressed out and tired and just feeling burnt, and somebody talked to me crazy at work today, and she come in asking me, it's simple, how was my day? I'm embarrassed. I'm disappointed. I can recognize that I need help. Like, I'm like, and I'm like, you don't deserve this. You just want your house to yourself, to live your 50s in peace like you thought you would, and I wish I could give it to you. And I'm working on it. But yeah, the last action of a burnt out person that you may notice either in yourself or somebody else is just like skipping work, coming in late, leaving early. I don't really have the luxury to do this. Just because of the intensity of my job, but if I could, I probably would. So next thing I want to talk about is stress versus burnout, because I say I'm stressed a lot, and I try not to, because it's just like, okay, are you stressed? You know, you just got a lot of things going on. You're a busy girl. You're booked and busy. Okay, that's one thing. But then also, like, because I feel like, in my personal opinion, burnout is when I'm just like, yo, sometimes you don't even know that you're burnt out. You're just like, I'm so tired, and I'm also sad. Like, I'm tired and I'm sad. Whereas like stress is just like, I am stressed out. So I looked it up because I was like, I'm pretty sure that definition was not going to help anybody, right? Stress equals too much, too many pressures, too many demands, too much asked of you physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm stressed out. When I think about going to work on Monday and me logging in and seeing like how many patients I have, or the provider that I have to run, I think about being stressed. Like, this is too much. You're asking too much of me. But when I think about burnout is not enough. So feeling empty, feeling mentally exhausted, having a void of motivation, of inspiration, like not having enough. So stressed out, too much, burnt out, not enough. If that kind of helps you out. And the thing again about burnout, which I've experienced and I've noticed and I've witnessed and I've researched, is that burnout is just like the first step. Well, the thing about burnout is that you don't realize that you're burnt out until you're already burnt. It's not like, oh, I feel like a burnout coming. Like when I did that podcast episode, the last one that I didn't end up uploading, which by the way is really strange for me, because I never like create and dump. I don't create content. I'm like, oh, it's not good enough, and I don't post it. I almost never do that. Like, you see basically every video, every picture, everything that I create. If I put my time into it, you're likely going to see it. If not, I'm waiting for the perfect time for you to see it. And it wasn't that I didn't like it, but the thing is that in that video, that podcast, I was talking about how I feel like a burnout is coming. By the time it was time for me to edit that podcast, which was just a week later, I was already too burnt out to do it. and it was already filmed. All I had to do was edit it and upload it, and I was already too burnt out. So I think that by the time you think you're burnt out, you're probably already there. But the problem with burnout is that it produces that helplessness and that hopelessness, and that's why I'm saying, like, that lack of motivation, the lack of ideals, the lack of hope, that leads to detachment and then ultimately depression. And so I definitely, we all have some mental health things personally in our lives, and y'all know I've talked about before my struggle with anxiety. But depression, that's a different beast. Like, it is so sneaky. It's so sneaky how it can just come and just take over, and you don't realize, and then when you do realize, you're like, oh, I need to get out of this, but it's like, it's kind of too late because I'm already here. Like, and I feel like it was the same thing with burnout, where it was like, I was like, maybe I'm getting burnt out, but I was already burnt out. And by the time I was like, oh, I think I'm burnt out, I think I was depressed. Like, I think I was already in it, and I was like I didn't recognize the signs of how I got there, and I definitely didn't know like what I was supposed to do to get myself out of it, because again, my situation wasn't going to change at that current time. But we'll talk about that as I keep going. So speaking of, let's bring in a Bible verse right now. Okay, we need some Jesus. Isaiah 40:29. This is for you out there. I know you needed this. I'm talking to myself. He gives strength to the weary, amen, and increases the power of the weak. So I read this thing on Instagram where a lady was talking about how some seasons demand more than we think that we can handle, and that's when we have to give our full dependency to God. Like, that's the only way to flourish. When we are exhausted, He sustains. It's exactly at those moments where we feel like we have nothing else to give. We have nothing else. We can't pull from anywhere else. We're stuck. Like, what are we supposed to do? It's not even that's when, because you are already, like, you should have been in your Bible. You should have been in your word. You should have been worshiping. You should have been. But if you are already there, it's okay. You got to use Him to get out. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I had to do. And I just thank God for friends in my life who point me back to Christ. I think that that's something right now that I am so intentional about, because I'm just in a season where it's not all yay. It's not all, let me post my bestie because she da-da-da-da. It's like, I need you to pray for me. I need you to remind me to pray. I need you to send me scriptures. I need you to remind me, have you been in your word? Have you been? Because we are in a season, like, it's very, how can I say this? We all know there's valleys and there's mountaintops. And if you are at a mountaintop right now, you're walking into a valley. But if you're in a valley right now, you're on your way to a mountaintop. The problem is, you never know how long you're going to be in which state for. So I know that a mountaintop is coming. I just didn't know that the valley was going to be this long, this deep, this heavy. But here we are. And if I don't have the right people surrounding me, when I forget who I need to be leaning on and how I need to be pouring into myself, when I feel like everything else is taking from me, then yeah, man, like, I just thank God for the friends who reminded me. Because when I went on my prayer and fast, and I really most recently just had like a light bulb moment of like, again, what am I supposed to learn in this season? Like, why do you have me here? Why? It's like, you're supposed to learn something from the situation, and it's beyond the fact that I'm your savior. Like, am I your Lord in every single step of your life? And that's a whole nother situation that's another conversation for another day. But that's what I had to do, where I really just had to, one, be surrounded by people who point me in the right direction. I had to get in my word, silence everything, listen, hear, speak, listen some more, pray, all those different things, like those prayer and fast really be doing me good, because it just allows me to refocus myself. And I told you guys about how I was like, I'm probably gonna get off. I was in a podcast episode that I didn't post, oops, but I was saying there, I was like, I'm probably gonna take another break, because I think that it's good to take just like some space away where you're not expecting, you're just focusing. And I did do that. I'm not sure how many people noticed, because I was only gone off of social media for 2 weeks. And then I also did like a food fast. But yeah, I only had a few people reach out to me and was like, hey, I think it was just enough to where somebody was like, wait, where's Brelynn? And then I came back. Why do we get burnt out? We know why Brelynn got burnt out, okay? Because, well, let's talk about it. When your character and your temperament don't match well with the demands and the culture of your workplace, anyone who feels overworked and undervalued is at risk for burnout. Raise your hand if you feel overworked and undervalued. Everybody raises their hand. Me. That's literally exactly how I feel. Like, and not just at my job, but in other areas of my life too. Like, I can kind of say the same thing for YouTube, like, or just social media in general. Because when I was going in, like, I was going in with my socials, right? Like, I was being consistent, and I was honestly really just like happy with the way that my channel and stuff was growing. But then, like I told you guys at the end of last year, and I was kind of just like, specifically on my Instagram, but a little bit of my YouTube, I was like, I'm not really feeling it. Like, I just feel like it could be more. Like, I feel like I've been doing this for so long, putting forth so much effort, that maybe I'm not doing something right. Something needs to shift to where it can just be more. So it can just be better. So it can just be greater. So it can just be bigger. But I was working so hard, and I think that can kind of correlate to being overworked and undervalued. Not saying that I wasn't valued at all, because I'm not going to discount 50,000 people clicking the subscribe button, watching my videos, liking, following me, etc. Like, it's not like you guys are nothing, but I just felt like, dang, this content is really worth. But that's neither here nor there. That's just how I felt when it came to my content. So not only do I feel that way when it comes to, again, my social media stuff, but definitely also at work. And I wouldn't say my pageantry life, but no, I wouldn't say my pageantry life necessarily, but definitely my demands were way greater than my ability to compensate for the things that just weren't clicking. They just weren't clicking for me. And I think that just added to, again, me feeling helpless, overloaded, and underappreciated. So I think a big thing is burnout is being dissatisfied with your work. And that's why I'm hoping that I won't have this same feeling, like, once I feel like I've quote unquote made it. Like, once I'm a physician, I'm hoping that burnout will come less often, because I won't necessarily be dissatisfied from my work if I'm doing what I love. That's why you have to make sure that you're actually doing what you love, because I can see how if you did it for the money, if you did it for the fame, for the clout, things like that, I can see why it could be dissatisfying. But child, all this that I gotta do to get them daggone letters in front and behind my name, I better like it. But yeah, it also comes to like lifestyle. Like, why do we get burnt out? Like, taking on too many responsibilities. I, president of that club, especially without help from others. I do a lot of things on my own. Even just like this YouTube stuff. Like, I was thinking about, I really wish I had somebody who I could do this podcast with, because I think just like having that accountability partner, whether it be like they could set up, or they could edit, or they could think of ideas with me, or just sit down with me and I could banter with them and we could go back and forth instead of just everything coming from me. Like, everything is a one-woman show. The pageant, like Miss HBCU teen, like everything is just like a lot of responsibilities and not a lot of help. It's not a lot of ways that people can help, but it definitely does like play a big role in like dissatisfaction for my work when I feel like my lifestyle it has a lot of responsibilities a part of it. And then also, I mentioned this before, this is the main reason why I stopped with the vlogs during this part of my life, like trying to live up to a lifestyle that doesn't match with the demands of my life. I'm a regular, medical assistant, and even though I'm 25, I'm still living at home with my mom. And even though I'm a master of physiology, I'm not making a lot of money. And even though I'm grinding it out, I'm not in medical school yet. So I'm like in this weird, and the reason why I came up with this podcast idea was because we love therapy around here, right? So I started therapy when I was in grad school. I finished out with her like when I graduated, and it took me a minute to start again with another one. And I liked her, and she was like, okay. I was like, okay. But I had kind of went in too deep with her. Like, I was like, I don't really feel like restarting and telling somebody else all my drama. Like, it's a lot. I ain't trying to catch you up. At least homegirl know what's up. But then I accidentally missed one of our calls, and then it like 2 months went by, and I was like, oh, well, I might as well just start off with somebody new, because at this point so much has happened that whatever. And I was thinking, okay, how can I quickly kind of describe how my life is a hot mess right now to somebody who would be like my therapist, right? And that's when I was like, yo, I'm actually burnt out, because there's so many areas of my life that I'm dissatisfied with. And then also when it comes to burnout, we have the part of your personality. And I think my personality plays a big part in just dissatisfaction overall, right? I have perfectionistic tendencies. I'm a perfectionist, okay? Sometimes, and my mom has told me this since I was little, and I know it's not a great thing, and I try and work on it, but like, I am who I am. We can work on it, but like, I am who I am. Sometimes nothing is ever good enough. Like, yeah, you got a job, but the job is not paying well. Like, yeah, you got a good following on YouTube, but it ain't a milli. Like, yeah, your skin is clearing up, but you still got that one pimple. Like, perfectionist tendencies, and it literally drives me crazy, but I cannot help it. It's just how I am. And then again, like that pessimistic view of the world and of others like that I have, where it's just like sometimes I'm just like, life sucks. Does it? Or are you just being dramatic? Like, do you just have a pessimistic mindset? Yes and yes. The need to be in control. Ooh-wee. I am a control freak. Is this drag Brelynn episode? Like, is this the episode where I just drag myself? I guess so. Because yeah, my need to be in control. Don't know where, why, how, but it's there, and it's bad, and it's strong. And when I have no control of my life right now, like what's going on with my applications, what goes on at my job, like what's going on with my car, what's going on in my home, like it's always something happening that everything is out of my control. And that just like drives me so crazy, where again it gets to the point where I'm like, I'm so stressed that I'm burned out. And then I'm just a high achieving type A personality. So yeah, it looks like burnout. It looks like burnout for me. So now that we have identified on many different levels that I am a hot mess, and I'm clearly burnt out, or I was burnt out, we're charring off the burnt off the toast. That's where we're at right now. We're kind of like a really dark brown piece of toast that maybe was burnt, but now it just has a cute little char to it. That's where we're at right now. But yeah, I want to talk about how I've actively tried to reduce my stress in order to prevent a major breakdown. I don't know if I had a major breakdown. I really think it was just a slow demise. But again, if you ignore these things, that you'll eventually like really burn out to a place of no return, or it'll take you really long to return. Now that I have returned, I'm going to tell you guys how to address the factors that lead to burnout. First things first, it's okay to be tired and worn out, because somebody needs to hear this. Again, talking to me. The determinant of your success is not based off of what you do during exhaustion. You need to return to the well, which is God, because He can quench your thirst. When you're weary and you're dissatisfied and you're feeling faint, nothing else can fill that but the well, but the source, which is God. Anything else is going to be temporary, and it ain't going to last. Seek peace through God. And again, I also mentioned like having godly friends around you for when you're not in the right direction, they turn you there, because it really is important. And at the same breath, like limit your contact with negative people. It's so sad because I feel like, okay, I'm being super negative right now, but if I'm being negative, I can't be around people who are also being negative with me. Or even if you're neutral, like, you have to help me pour life back into me, because that's how I am. Like, when I'm doing well, we killing them demons. Who's coming at you? We speaking them out. We praying them out. I'm sending you Bible verse, blah, 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 blah. You need to talk. I'm here for you. So when it's my turn, I need that same energy. And if you can't bring that energy to me, or at least point me to the well, you gotta go. Like, you have to limit your contact with negative people, people who will not be on the same page as you, because you will just dig yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into that hole of burnout, and eventually hopelessness, and then eventually depression. Cut off all relationships that lack I can never say this word. When you reciprocate, reciprocity. That's not it. That's not it at all. You guys know what I'm trying to say. If it doesn't go both ways, care and respect for yourself is like the best way to show self-care to yourself. It's respecting yourself and your boundaries. So next thing that I did was join community. I decided to be obedient because, I mean, it's very similar to when I was burnt out in grad school. There was a lot of different factors going on as well then, but it's like being in community with people, whether that's a religious group. Specifically for me, it was like, I know I need to go back to church. I need to be in a house with people, again, who were going to be like, let me pray for you. Where are these people at? If you don't got one, you need to find one. Your community, again, your social group, a support group, just that's like-minded people that can give you a place to talk and to vent and to be yourself, but then to not allow you to be alone and to stay there. This is the next thing, find some value in your work. I think that just looking at work differently, like, perspective is so expensive. Like, if I could bottle up perspective, because it can really change a lot of different things. I could literally go into work one day and be like, I hate it here, y'all don't deserve me, like, y'all don't treat me right, y'all don't pay me well, but if I come up with the perspective of anything, any way that I can switch my perspective, it can change my mood, it can change my attitude, it can change my day, it can change the way that I impact other people. Like, that's such a powerful tool, which is why the devil tries to keep it away from you. The devil wants you to see things the way that he wants you to see it, because if you keep your mind, like, again, on this negative path, then you're not going to see the joys, you're not going to see the benefits, you're not going to see the lessons, you're not going to see, because nothing is all bad, nothing is all good either. But if you decide to change your perspective and force yourself to see the good in any situation, whether that be the value in your work, the good in relationships, the happiness in the times of sadness, whatever it is, like, it makes a big difference. Next up, balancing your life. I think I usually do a pretty good job at this, but like I said, right now, just in this phase of life, because my job is just so overbearing, it's pretty hard to balance anything else with it. But otherwise, it's just like, I'm being so serious about my boundaries during this season. Like, I've decided that I'm about to be working out every day because I'm not trying to be fat and sad. No, really, like, I'm like, I need to be working out because that's what I want for myself. I want at least a peaceful week. I don't want to be like sleeping all weekend to where when Monday comes, I don't got no lunch packed, I ain't got no dinner packed, or meal prepped, I'm scrambling, I got no burgers, I ain't got no groceries, my clothes ain't washed. Like, I have literally, I'm going to show this to you guys in an upcoming video, I have mastered like my Sunday reset routine that really just gives my life balance. And even though it feels like, okay, dang, after Friday, you wake up Saturday, dang, I already gotta go back to work. Like, it feels like your Sunday, it's like you want to cherish every last second of it. I really get it. But if you actually take your Sundays and prepare for your week, then you have less time when you're like frazzled and like I found myself to have better weeks when I've actually taken my Sunday. And then it doesn't take all Sunday like you think it is. Like, if I do everything I need to do, like, I'm not gonna have any time to relax, but you will. And then you'll also be better prepared for your week, happier, more relaxed. And then taking time off. Like, I'm getting to that point now where I'm like, I'm not gonna be here on this day. Okay, I used to not take off of work, whether it be, I don't care if I was sick, I'm gonna make it work, I'm gonna drive 2 hours afterwards, can we meet, da 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 da. Nowadays it's like, just take time off. Or like I said, even from social media, like, dang, I really was gone off of social media for 6 months in the beginning of the year, and now I'm about to be off again, just because, like, not because I can't make the content, like, I have the quote-unquote time, but I don't have the motivation, I don't have the energy, I don't have the passion for it. Like, nah, just suck it up. No, take your time, because my content that I would have made in the past 2 months, how long have I been gone? I don't know, maybe 3. Like, it wouldn't have been as good as I'm hoping the content will be now, because I am rested and refreshed. And it'll be the same for you, anything that you do. Like, maybe you need time off, and again, whether that's from work, from creating, from thinking, from posting, from anything that you feel like you don't, like, you feel like you have to do something. If something's feeling like you have to do it and it's holding you back, take time off. All right, last thing, coping strategies. Because when, again, we're all going to be faced with situations where burnout is going to be knocking at our door, and we have to decide how we're going to reevaluate our priorities. Take some time. I've been really doing better with journaling now every single day. Thinking about my hopes, my goals, my dreams, and then also, again, evaluating whether or not I am neglecting something that's truly important to me. And that's how I came back to, like, I need to get back to creating content, because I miss this community that we have. And whether, even though I cannot provide the vlog for you guys like you all really want and how I really want, doesn't mean that the community that we built has to go to waste until we're waiting on, you know, this medical school acceptance and this new chapter in life. Like, this chapter has purpose, and I have to walk in it. So it's the same for you. Like, see what you are neglecting that could possibly make a big difference in you and your life. I mentioned this earlier, but setting boundaries. I am so strict on my boundaries now. Like, I don't play, because I'm not going to overextend myself, because then it just creates like this overactive mind, and I'm always thinking about what I have to do next. Like, be strong, learn how to say no. It'll help you in the long run, and it'll prevent you from getting burnt out. Next, taking breaks from technology, not just social media, but also technology in general. Like, I really had to get better at, like, actually, I can read a book going to bed tonight. It's so hard. It's so hard after a long day of work. I'm like, I want to watch YouTube. What is the new vlog? I'm not playing. I'm not trying to read no book. But sometimes just disconnecting. Set time every day to be disconnected. And I think, again, that's something else that I'm really good at, and I've been good at this for a while now, is like not being on my phone when I first wake up. And literally, my morning routine does not require my phone at all. If anything, I've also really enjoyed affirmations, which we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. Next up, nourishing your creative side. This is not just for my content creators, this is for everybody. Everybody has some part of them that's creative, and I think that if you are a super goal-oriented, type A, high-achieving person, you're probably neglecting that side of you, unless it's a part of like your everyday career, day-to-day life. But creativity is a powerful antidote to burnout, so I think that you should try and not forget about it. and nourish it is really the best word for that. And then setting time aside to relax, you know, self-care. I have been very intentional about stretching after I'm working out. Working out in general really helps me get out all the antsies, but definitely stretching afterwards, that is like my quiet time. I haven't been doing meditation as often, but like when my little Apple Watch tells me to breathe, I'll be like, all right, let me take a minute and breathe. Because like little things like that, day by day, if I do that twice a day, every day for a month, maybe I'll go one more month without being burnt out, you know. And yeah, so deep breaths. I'm starting to get my nails done again. I'm painting my toes, going on walks, which I've enjoyed doing. And yeah, affirmations. So let me talk about these affirmations, right? Because this has been a big key in me changing my mindset. It's such a great way to be intentional. Like it's a great way to put action towards intentionality, to have a more positive mindset. And so a new thing in my morning routines, when I'm doing my makeup, I'll play a YouTube video with affirmations going, and I'll repeat them as I'm doing my makeup just for about 10 minutes. And then I'll listen to like this affirmations playlist. It's like a thriving, high positive, vibey, I don't really know how to describe it. I'll leave the link to the playlist in the description box of this video, but I listen to that on my way to work, which is, I only listen to 2 or 3 songs, but it's just like it sets the mood for the day, where I have spoken life, and this is again after I've done my prayer and Bible time in the morning time. So at this point, I've prayed, I've read my Bible, I've hopefully done a devotional. If not, I usually do it during lunchtime because, like, listen, I'll have to wake up really early, okay? And I do my affirmations, and I've also kind of like got myself riled up. Like, this stuff has has really put me on the up and up, to where my attitude is better, my spirit is just uplifted, and I'm really loving affirmations, and I want to share with you guys here as a part of my podcast. But I'll get to that in 1 second, because I do have a couple more tips, okay? I read this thing on Instagram, and it said, instead of ruminating on my exhaustion, I can rehearse God's promises over my life. Changing my language brings me energy and strength. And this is based off of Proverbs 15:4. The soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit. I have like a whole kind of like section in my Bible app where I have all of these verses that speak about the tongue and the power of the tongue, because I could do a whole podcast on that, because again, me and my mouth, it can be a blessing and a curse, tree of life, or crush the spirit. And so I've just been very intentional about using my tongue, using my voice, using my words for good and not for evil. Next on this list is to get plenty of sleep. Easier said than done, but I've been doing pretty good about it. Like, bedtime is bedtime, and no matter what, I have to go to bed, making sure I'm showered and in that bed, because again, feeling tired can exacerbate burnout by causing you to like think irrationally and just to be irritated. It's so easy to be irritated when you're tired. And hello, Jesus rested. That's my favorite line. It's between that and Jesus wept. I love to tell people that Jesus wept when I'm crying because it's true. But yeah, he rested, and he commanded me to rest. When I don't, I compromise my peace for a peace that I cannot sustain. Like, you cannot sustain being tired and being without rest. So yeah, it's useless to work so hard from early in the morning until late at night, anxiously working for food to eat, when God gives rest to his loved ones. Okay, that's Bible. But yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier, but definitely making exercise a priority. Even though it can be like the last thing that you feel like doing when you're burnt out, exercise is also a very powerful antidote to stress and burnout, and it's something that you can be in control of doing, and it will boost your mood. So instead of focusing on your thoughts, you can focus on your body as you move it around, and it also just makes me feel really accomplished at the end of my day. I love this little Apple Watch and being like, dang, I burned that many calories. It's just endorphins. Endorphins make you happy. Happy people just don't kill, okay? They just don't. Anyway, and then of course going with that is supporting your mood and your energy levels with a healthy diet. Easier said than done. Out of all of these, this is probably the hardest one. I mean, I'm pretty good with my diet, but then I'm like, I've been so good all week, I want Popeyes. So, but it's also like balance, because like, am I supposed to eat a salad every day of my life, or can I have Popeyes on a Saturday? It's still out for debate, but so far I've been doing what makes me and my body happy, understanding that what I put in my body does have a huge impact on my mood and my energy levels. And I also try and not be like, I had a really bad day, I deserve Chick-fil-A. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother podcast episode, but the point of this all is to create habits that serve you. That's something that I've just been very intentional about recently. So doing your best each day might look different each day, but at least you are trying. So keep going. So what do we talk about in today's video? Sometimes burnout can lead to depression if it goes unsolved long enough. So I don't know who needs to hear this, but please take your time Even if you can't see it right now, everything you're going through is working in your favor. Be patient and call your energy back to you. You are in control of how you feel. Close out with some kingdom keys, because I believe that God speaks to us in various different ways. The pattern of this world will try to present new evidence, arguments, and claims to work against our knowledge of God and the hope we have in Him. If we take this evidence in, then the pattern of this work will only empty us of hope. 2 Corinthians 10:5 says we must take every thought captive and make them obedient to Christ. Learn and master the skill of challenging your thoughts. Your initial reflex to negative thinking must be to challenge all thoughts that work against God. My favorite question I keep asking myself is that true? Or is that just to hurt me? Break the pattern. Create a new pattern of joy and hope. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. This is how we practically and actively renew our mind and live in the pattern of life God has designed for us.
Best in your weakness. So the place that should be a place of burial, the place where we're so stressed out and we don't know what to do, may be the exact place that God has planted us so that He can get glory out of our life.
Oh my goodness. Hope is incubating. Hope is about creating an environment where hope can continue to grow. That might be putting Post-its on your mirror. It might be listening to songs that lead you in the direction of hope. It might be messages and books and sermons and things like what we're doing here, where I'm constantly feeding my hope and that I am starving my fears. That means anything that makes me insecure, I may have to log off of social media for a minute. I may have to create boundaries and not talk to certain people who make me feel less than, because I'm trying to incubate my hope. And what you'll notice is you start to get more courageous when you're incubating your hope, because you begin to allow that to become part of who you are and part of your DNA.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
As I close out, last thing I'm going to do, like I mentioned earlier, I've been obsessed with affirmations. And originally, when I came up with the flow of my podcast, I wanted to do an episode affirmation, but I kind of cut it out because my podcasts were too long. I'm putting it back in. Okay, so I want you to breathe. We're going to end this podcast off right with a few minutes of guided affirmations to keep our spirits up and focused as we move throughout our day. Remove all distractions and verbally repeat these words after me. I have the ability to make progress with ease today. I have plenty of time when I decide to tackle things one thing at a time. I release all negative attachments, thoughts, and feelings that are blocking me from receiving and blocking my path. I move forward with confidence and no longer press rewind. The Lord has given me strength to transform the way I think. I am willing and able to redirect my attention to whatever is lovely, true, and praiseworthy. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. You can do so on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're not already watching the pod, don't forget there are accompanying video podcasts on my YouTube channel, Beauty and Brain, so join me over there and subscribe to that channel as well. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Brelynn Hunt, or visit my website, brelynnhunt.com, for weekly podcast updates or to contact me to share your story. Until next time, be sure to live each day to the fullest, because you only live once, and give yourself some grace. We are all just a work in progress. I'll see you guys next week.